Welcome on into BKL Nightly. I'm Thad Brown with Rachel Liebert and Caleb Carr. We are talking about the Super Bowl one day after the Seahawks win another championship. We're going to look at it through a Bills lens. What do the Bills need? How far away are they? And what do we think about this Buffalo team going forward in a world where the Sam Darnold-led Seahawks will be the defending champs? Guys, let's just talk about the game first. What do we think? I must pat myself on the back because I posted a prediction of 30-13 on X. And the final score is 29-13. Easily my best pick of the year.
Still not right, though. But.
Wow. That's harsh. I mean, I thought, look.
It's close. It's close enough.
Coming from Rachel, who was the
resident expert.
The resident expert on predictions this year.
And I had like a reaction when you said 13. I was like, 13, like when you said it last week.
You did.
So.
You did.
You're right. You're right. Good job.
Thank you. What do you think of the game there, expert?
I was bored. I mean, it was
not
fine.
wrong.
It was fine enough. I mean, I feel like this is kind of just like a poetic ending of how this season went, of just being a weird year in the NFL and the Patriots are in the Super Bowl. I mean, it was a fine game. It was the expected winner, but I don't know. I wasn't particularly glued to the screen at any point, even, when things started to pick up. So it was okay. We did pick the Seahawks to win, so I guess we all won in that aspect. But other than that, I was kind of bored.
I mean, I like defensive games. I just like football in general. So a lot of football fans out there are like, oh, it's got to be offense or I'm not watching. I like defensive games. With that being said, this was less of a defense making plays and more of a defense preventing the offense from making plays type of game. It just felt like nobody could do anything. And it wasn't like now towards the end, there were some turnovers and the Seahawks were getting to Drake May quite a bit, but like, there weren't any like huge defensive plays for most of the game until you got to like the fourth quarter. And then there started to be some stuff just because the Patriots were like, okay, we need to do something now. But it was bored is maybe harsh, but it was definitely getting pretty close to being boring.
It was rough at 12-0. I'm with you.
Yes.
Some of my friends were texting, who's the MVP? I'm like, anybody who sat through this whole game. But the end of the game was okay. There was stuff. When you had that run of the sack fumble that led to the touchdown, and then you get the big Mac Hollins play, and then the Patriots get a stop, and you're like, maybe? And then there's interception, field goal, pick six, essentially is what it was, and then the game was over. So that little 25-minute sequence made it okay. But, yeah, in terms of the whole game, this one went surprisingly to form. Like, I'm patting myself on the back for the prediction. I can't tell you how many people I saw on social media last night who were like, oh, I had 27-13, I had 31-10. People were basically on this game, that New England wasn't going to do much offensively. Seattle really wasn't going to either, but they were going to enough to dominate the game and pull away late, which is, it wasn't, the only thing that surprised me is how well the Seahawks ran the ball, because I really thought New England's run defense would be better. Ken Walker going for $135 and being MVP was definitely not on my bingo card anywhere, even if I had a lot of the other stuff right. When we come out of this game, from the Bills' point of view, Caleb, what do the Bills, when you watch this game and think, okay, for the Bills to get here next year, they need what?
I mean, I think the obvious answer is a receiver. I mean, the Patriots obviously have Stephon Diggs and Mac Hollins and a couple other guys, Demario Douglas. Like, they have some good receivers, but I don't think any of them really lived up to the X factor guy. Now, I know JSN didn't really need to be the X factor guy in this game, but when you look at the playoffs as a whole, he has been for the majority of the playoffs and for the season for the Seahawks. So I think the obvious answer is that. But for me, I'm going to less of what they need to acquire and more of what they need to keep the offensive line, because there's guys on the line who might not be coming back. I don't think they can just completely overhaul this O-line because you saw, I mean, that Patriots pass rush Seahawks pass rush did anything they wanted, and they got to Drake May. If you're going to stop a defense like that, you got to be able to hold it down on the O-line.
It's a great take, because I think most people will look at that game and think, okay, Seattle had these things, like you said, JSN and the defense, so therefore the Bills need those things. But the good argument here is that you're making, they don't need those things. They need something to stop those things, because that New England offensive line was not ready for prime time.
Not even close.
Yeah, exactly. And Seattle's got good players on defense. They don't have, it's not like they have Jalen Carter and Aaron Donald and Myles Garrett on the D line. If the Bills don't go into next year with an offensive line that can hang, because I don't care who it is, you're going to probably see somebody on the other side that can get after you with 4 and certainly can cause you a problem. If you don't have an O-line that can handle that, I think you make a good point that the Bills won't be able to handle winning this game. Rach?
I'm going to go with something Seattle did have that I think the Bills have, and it's the pass rush, exactly like you said. I mean, the Bills don't have up front, out of, a 4-man rush, they don't have who is going to be their, edge rusher. I feel like they need a game changer in this. I mean, Seattle had 6 sacks, I believe, on Drake May. It was a 52% pressure rate, and they didn't really blitz crazily last night. So I think taking away from what worked for Seattle, I think the Bills really need to work on what's up front, because their secondary, I think, is fine. I mean, we saw it in their defense ability to stop the pass, this past season. So I think up front, if the Bills need to take away what Seattle did, kind of model maybe bolstering that line up front.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's defensive line help. And I think the thing the Bills should be focusing on is not Max Crosby or Trey Hendrickson. And I know we're going to hear about that a lot in the next few weeks. They need multiple pieces. One of the things I looked at last night was the last 3 Super Bowls, not one of them included a guy who was top 15 in sacks. So all those elite sack guys, the Garretts, the Parsons, all those guys in the world, none of them made the Super Bowl over the last 3 years. Now, this isn't exactly a sample size of like the last 30 years, but I thought 3 was interesting enough that the teams that do go, they come at you a wave, especially the last 2. So I think the Bills need pieces, but it's pieces with an S at the end, multiple pieces on the defensive line. There's a good argument for receiver, though. I saw this being floated around, that if you have an elite receiver, what that does to the defense is that you can blitz and do all this crazy stuff. But if you're afraid of losing to that guy with one-on-one on the outside, it may not matter. So I don't care if I have Josh Allen or Sam Darnold or Jalen Hurts or Aaron or anybody who's terrible, Kyler Murray, right? You can throw 18 people at the guy. If he can just close his eyes and throw to Puka Nacua on the outside, it don't matter. So I think there's still a good argument for receiver being a priority, even if I still land on the defensive line.
Kyler Murray catching a stray.
He's down there right now.
He's not. The fact that he was the first one that comes to mind, though.
He was not. I went through 3 other guys.
All right.
You know what the problem was? I wanted to say Zach Wilson, and for some reason I had Aaron Wilson in my head. He's like a media reporter.
You started saying Aaron. I was like, Aaron who?
Aaron who, right, I know. That was the problem right there. It's off season already, everybody. All right. We've talked about the Bills' need. Rachel, when you walk away from that game, how far away do they look in terms of getting to a point where they can win a Super Bowl? It's a loaded question because the AFC don't look too nasty still, so getting to a Super Bowl and winning are 2 different things. The question I want answered here is, how far away do they look from winning a Super Bowl?
From the defensive perspective of what Seattle brought to the table, if I'm comparing that to potentially what the Bills would have done with that or any really solid defense out of the NFC, I still feel like they're pretty far away. And if you take away, like I said, too, if they need to bolster their D-line, I think they have a lot of bolstering that they need to do with their D-line. And same thing on the offense. They need a receiver. There's so many pieces that we saw last night from these 2 teams that the Bills don't have or need to fill in these gaps. So I still feel like they're not super far away, but I still feel like I stand where they're not. This isn't going to be the easiest path that they thought they had last season. I still feel like they got to put in some work to get there.
Not as far away as Kyler Murray is, right? But some distance away. Okay, Caleb?
I agree that there's definitely still some work to do. For the defense, though, I do think that the bringing in Jim Leonard and having a new defensive scheme, I think that puts them a little bit closer. At least in the long run, we'll see what next season looks like. There's going to be a transition period, especially bringing in Joe Brady, 3 new coordinators. It's going to be a transition year. But when we look at 2 to 3 years down the line, I think they are a little bit closer than we might think. And then on the offensive side, I still do think that if you can keep this offensive line, you keep James Cook, you keep Josh Allen, obviously, and you keep kind of the core of these receivers, and you just add one main guy, I do think that can just change this entire offense. When you're relying on Shakir to be your main guy, it doesn't work. I think the Bills have a good supporting cast at receiver. They just don't have the main guy.
I think if the idea is building the defense that won each of the last 2 Super Bowls, the Bills are pretty far away. I was doing this with Carl Jones, actually, who's on the show quite a bit. How many Bills players would have started on the Seattle defense? Because the list gets short the more you think. Cole Bishop probably would have, because he's that guy. Christian Benford is another one. I don't know if he's the number 1 corner, but he's a starter.
Ed Oliver, maybe?
Maybe. I mean, he's the best guy in the defense, and we're like, I don't know.
Well, that's because Seattle's defensive line is
That's
pretty
what I'm
good.
saying, though. You know, if you start nobody at linebacker for a lot of reasons.
Definitely not.
Taron Johnson would have an argument. 2 years ago, Taron Johnson for sure. Maybe not this year, Taron Johnson. But this is the point. If you're trying to build that defense and that's your plan to winning, then the Bills are really far away. But I don't think that's the Bills' plan. And you make a good point about Jim Leonard changing how the defense is going to look anyway. And also, I think the idea that they might be far away for 26, but because of what they've done, they're a heck of a lot closer for 27 and 28. I think all that makes sense too. It depends on what point of view and what kind of mode you want to attack going after a Super Bowl, which leads us to our next question here. So, like I said, defenses have dominated the last 2 Super Bowls, Seahawks and the Eagles the year before. I know it's a smaller sample size, but Rachel, do we think that the era of having Pat Mahomes or Tom Brady is over and that this is the way you want to go about winning these games?
I mean, I think defense for sure does win championships, but I only think that's possible if it's coupled with an elite offense or an offense that can perform. I think if you pour all of your resources into one side of the ball, example, the Bills this offseason, pouring all of their resources into the defense, you can't get to that next level if you are only relying on one side of the ball. And yes, last night, I mean, the Seattle was held off for the first 3 quarters and the Patriots looked awful, but I mean, it's still, they had an offense that was an elite offense this year. So I think, yes, defense does win championships, but I don't think that it's only relying on the defense. I think you have to have like a Pat Mahomes or whatever caliber quarterback in order to be a team that gets there, to be able to rely on your defense when your offense isn't performing at the high level maybe they have the rest of the season.
I think there's definitely a level you have to be at quarterback, but that level is now Sam Darnold, which I don't think anybody thinks was very high before this season. I don't think anybody thinks it's very high right now, higher than we thought for sure with Darnold. But I don't think, Caleb, that you need to have, you certainly don't need to have the quarterback. We've seen that the last 2 years, not the great elite quarterback. It helps, but you don't need it. The question is, where do you have to be on defense?
I think the NFL kind of goes through phases. And right now we're in a phase of defense matters more than anything else. And the Bills just don't have that defense right now. I think they can grow into one. I think they can get one, but I think the focus for most teams needs to be defense. But like Rachel said, you still need a competent offense. I mean, you look at the last 2 teams, Seattle and Philadelphia. Defense, awesome, but you still have Sam Darnold, who I'm not going to call him elite, but he's definitely a pretty good quarterback. Like
top 12, I think would be fair.
Oh, definitely. I would say top 12.
I might get him out of the top 12, but we're close with that. Go ahead.
I think top 12 is fair, pretty close. Still a top-ish quarterback. You've got a really good offensive line. You've got a decent running back. Kenneth Walker isn't amazing, but he's good. And then you've got the guy that just won Offensive Player of the Year at receiver. So you still have these core pieces there, and then everything else on the defense. Same thing with Philadelphia. Jalen Hurts isn't elite, but he's a pretty good quarterback. Saquon Barkley, you've got A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, 2 really good receivers. Dallas Goedert, like you still have these really, really good pieces, a great offensive line. So as much as defense is still the priority, you have to make sure you have those good core pieces on the offense. And right now the Bills have Josh Allen and James Cook, but outside of that, there aren't really any other pieces. I think they still need a couple more pieces while still focusing on the defense.
The thing that holds me back from going away from that is not only were the 2 Super Bowl teams, not only were the 2 Super Bowl champions the last 2 years defensive oriented, the loser this year was defensive oriented. The loser last year, I know it's Pat Mahomes, was still probably defense oriented. And even this year, you look at the conference championship teams, other than the Rams were an offense team. Denver was defense first too. That's a lot of teams that are defense first that have gone deep into the playoffs the last few years. But in general, I'm with you. The other thing is, I think it's wrong. I know this is a copycat league. I think it's wrong to go into a season thinking this team just won, let's do that. I think teams need to be more focused on trying to create their own identity, be their own team. Be like, no one talked about Seattle as a great team until they were great. They didn't worry about trying to copy the Rams or they asked for Sam Darnold. They certainly weren't trying to copy the Chiefs or the old school Patriots with getting the elite quarterback. Do your own thing. And for Buffalo, I don't think you need to go out and build a ridiculous defense. It'd be nice if you were a little better rushing the quarterback, but if they wanted to go find 3 receivers and, like you say, shore up make sure the offense line is still good and go win kind of like the Rams are winning or in a mode of that, I think that might be the better way for Buffalo. speaking of the Patriots, so they win the division, they go to the Super Bowl, they darn near end up with the MVP. How much are they a threat for the Bills now going to next year, coming out of this game? Because I know Bills fans thoroughly enjoyed watching New England be on the short end of that whooping last night.
I did, very much so.
I'm not surprised. Saw many tweets and memes and videos and everything else. How much a threat are they though going into next year? Because as of right now, 2025 is over. Everybody's undefeated. We really should talk about next year, but this season. We might have a debate about that in a minute, but go ahead.
I don't think they're Super Bowl level. I know they were just in the Super Bowl. I don't think going into next season they're still a Super Bowl level threat, but they're definitely much more of a threat than they were as we were going into this past season. Drake May is growing. I know he didn't really perform well in the playoffs. You can argue about how well he performed in the regular season, but he was still an MVP candidate, and I think he's young enough where he's just going to continue growing. Another year with Vrabel there, it's the defense, the connection with the quarterback, it's just going to keep getting better. I think it's 100% still going to be, especially with the Bills kind of going to be trying to find a new footing this season, it's 100% going to be a fight for the AFC East. I don't think it's close enough to say that the Patriots are going to win or that the Bills are going to win. I think it's definitely going to be a really, really good fight. They're both going to be really good teams.
I think they're a threat. I mean, this was year 2 of Drake May, and a large issue last night was their O-line, and it was, I think, the left side 2 rookies that are, letting all this pressure get through. And I think the biggest thing, too, is Mike Vrabel. You took a 3-14 team, made them a 14-3 team, and they're in the Super Bowl. I mean, they might not be a threat to go back to the Super Bowl, but as far as the AFC East is concerned, I think they're a pretty big threat to the Bills. I mean, as I was watching it, I was like, was this kind of a fluke? What was the season? But we've seen this entire season of the AFC was kind of wide open in terms of what the heck was going to happen. Nobody would have predicted this was the outcome. But I do think they're a threat. I mean, they were in the Super Bowl. They got there for a reason. I think Drake May just had a bad game. I think the O-line had a bad game. But I think in relation to the Bills, they're still very much a threat.
I think they're a huge threat. And people are going to look at New England and think they were lucky to get to the Super Bowl. And they were. But part of the reason they were lucky is because the AFC isn't that good. And last I checked, the Bills are still in that AFC. So they're part of the reason why New England was able to catch a lucky road and get there. The other thing is, too, sitting here, I want to, when we assess Bills, Patriots, AFC East next year, I want to see who gets traded, who gets signed, who gets drafted, all that stuff. But sitting here right now, the Patriots have $50 million in more cap room. The Patriots have 11 draft picks, 2 in the 4th round and 4 in the 6th round, for whatever that's worth. The Bills have 7. The Bills are over the cap as it stands right now. So the Patriots last year were on par with Buffalo. Are we going to sit here and walk away from the season thinking the Bills are a better team or no? I think it's pretty square, right? Is that fair?
I'd say so.
So if these two teams are square and New England's got way more cap room and way more draft picks and they have everybody signed, because they spent all their money last year. They don't have, their O-line is all coming back. Everybody on their defense is all coming back because they just drafted them and signed them all last year. The Bills got to figure out who the heck they want on defense. And like we talked about, they have guys to sign. Right here, right now, the idea that the Bills are a better favorite than the Patriots, we're going to get that in a second, kind of blows my mind a little bit. Now, you know what the reason is. The reason is the Bills have Josh Allen and nobody else does. I get that. But when you want to compare just those two teams sitting here right now, I don't see how you don't make the Patriots the favorite. Based on not only that, the Patriots right now have a ridiculous advantage in coaching because their coaches went to a Super Bowl in year 1 and the Bills have a coach who's in year 1. So where do we line up? What do the Bills have right now that's better than New England other than quarterback?
I don't
much of anything.
James Cook.
Yes,
James Cook.
Absolutely.
I would say James Cook. And
Dalton Kincaid's athleticism.
Maybe a couple individual players on the defensive side, but defense as a whole, I don't think it's better. I was playing the game, what Bills defensive player to start for Seattle. I did it for New England too. You're not going to find many. Cole Bishop, yes. Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know if Christian Benford's got a battle to even start on that team.
Christian Gonzalez is so good. I love Christian.
And Carlton Davis is good too.
I don't like the Patriots. I love Christian
He's
Gonzalez.
awesome. I agree. So yeah, now look, the Bills, and let's move on to the next question here. The Bills are currently the number 1 favorite out of the AFC, no matter where you look to make the Super Bowl. The odds are a little bit varied. Caesars has them plus 1,000, which is tied for second. On Caesars right now, they have the same odds as Seattle to win the Super Bowl next year, which sounds ridiculous, but the Josh Allen effect. On DraftKings, they're tied for second at, they're third at plus 1,100. And then everybody else, they're plus 1,200, which is tied for third with Baltimore. New England's like 1,300, 1,700. They're a ways down. So, Rachel, what's our reaction to the Bills being not necessarily the odds, but they are still a top 3 team, no matter where you look, to win the Super Bowl next year? Not make it, win the Super Bowl.
I agree with you. I don't feel like that's very accurate. I mean, it's weird because I feel like this entire offseason, everybody's just been questioning how legit is Josh Allen. He can't get over the hump. They have a new head coach. They're bringing all these new pieces, and they're still favorite. Like, it doesn't really make sense to me. I mean, like you said, the Josh Allen effect is real, and that's why they're up there. But like you said, I mean, in comparison to the Patriots, if you want to break it down position by position, what do the Bills have over the Patriots? Not a lot. And I'm surprised that after the Bills didn't make it to the Super Bowl this year, in the year that everybody said was their easiest way to get to the Super Bowl, that they're still in the top 3. It doesn't really make sense to me, so I'm with you.
Vegas is a little more sometimes about impressions, and protecting themselves, not necessarily assessing the teams accurately. But look, the Josh Allen effect is still pretty huge.
No, I agree that that's the main part. But if you wouldn't have told me what the odds were and you were just like, where do the Bills rank? I would have taken the Josh Allen effect into like a part of that, and I would have put him like 8 or 9.
Yeah.
Saying that Josh Allen is the reason that they're up to 3 is way too much. That's way overkill.
Let's just rank them in the AFC. Who would you, because I just talked about how the Patriots have a coaching advantage over Buffalo. Mm-hmm. Well, Baltimore's got the same problem. They changed their coach out this year too. They have a first-year head coach who's never done it before. And while they have the great quarterback, they have also their own roster questions. So Kansas City is going to have Patrick Mahomes rehabbing an ACL for most of the year. Maybe we'll have a separate discussion about Drake May. So, like, who would you – this is the thing you come back to in terms of assessing this. It feels like Buffalo shouldn't be top 3, but who do you put over the top of them? You can do – I just made the argument for New England. It's there. Yeah. Other than that, who do I really want to sell as better than Buffalo?
I would –
Or do you want to give me 6 NFC teams over the Bills? Which
there
might be an argument for that.
I think the NFC is where you're going to find the most teams, but I do think that Jacksonville is an argument.
It's a good one, actually.
I mean, Liam Cohen looked really good, and it's another kind of same argument with Vrabel and the Patriots. It's another year for them to grow. So I think the Patriots could be ahead. I think the Jaguars could be ahead. I know you don't like this, but I still think that Denver is going to continue to grow. That defense is just really good, and we just talked about how much of that matters. The Chiefs, I know they're not going to have Patrick Mahomes for the beginning of the year, but if they can stay afloat long enough, when Mahomes gets back, I don't care if Mahomes isn't there for the first 18 seasons. If they make the playoffs and then he's in a wild card game, I don't want to see that team.
It's like the Tom Brady Tampa season all over again.
Yeah. And I don't think the Bills should be above the Ravens, but I think they're too far above the Ravens right now, if that makes sense. But then when you look at the NFC, I've got the Rams, you've got the Seahawks. I think the Eagles and Lions are still really good. Like
the Niners, if they ever stay healthy.
The Niners. Yeah. I mean, there's teams that are on the up as well that it's hard for me to not. I don't know. Even now thinking about it, putting them in the top 10 is maybe rough.
But they're top 10. They're top 10.
I don't know, man.
When you start laying out teams though, top 3 does feel
way too
high.
Way too high.
And they're top 3 in every book right now, or at least every book I checked. So I get it. I mean, look, the quarterback thing is real, but with the way we've seen defenses push teams deep into January, I think there's reasonable question about whether the Bills are a reasonable top 3 favorite. Speaking of deep into January, one of the favorite games of Bills fans, and really every team's fans, is what would have happened if my team had been in the Super Bowl? How would they have done? And that one was one that I think got played a lot in this Super Bowl because the team that was there from the AFC in New England certainly was not entertaining much of anyone last night. So, Caleb, what do we think? What does that game look like, Super Bowl 60, if it's Bills Seahawks instead of Patriots Seahawks?
I definitely think it's a little bit more entertaining. Shootout might be strong, but I think it's definitely higher scoring throughout the first half, maybe the first 3 quarters. I think Buffalo is able to score a little bit more. I think the Seahawks also, some of those field goals turn into touchdowns against the Buffalo defense. And then I think come the fourth quarter, late third quarter, fourth quarter, I think the Seahawks defense makes just enough plays, and they probably end up winning by at least a touchdown.
Yeah, I don't think the outcome would have been any different, but I do think I would have liked to think that the Bills would have put up at least something on the board in the first 3 quarters in the first half. But I still think Seattle would have won. I think their defense, I mean, the Bills struggled all season against elite defenses, and I think it would have been much of the same.
I think so too. Go back to what they did against Houston and Philly. I know they played well against Denver. And perhaps if they had ran the ball as well as they had in Denver in this game, maybe they put up a better fight. It wouldn't have been a worse fight. That's the one thing I land on. Like, you would not have gotten less than what you got out of the Patriots. I think Josh Allen certainly is the best quarterback at the NFL these days when it comes to making up things on their own, figuring out how to make a play, get a bucket, as we say. And while Drake May has been good at that, he's not at Josh's level. And that would have kept the Bills in the game a lot longer. But as we've said, this was a year where the AFC just did not have it. And we've thought that since mid-October, that this would Super Bowl would look this way. And I think the way the game turned out was not a surprise. And I don't think it would have been any different, much different at least, had it been Buffalo or Jacksonville. Here's a fun question. Which AFC team off the top of your head plays Seattle the closest? Any of the playoff teams? No answer at all?
Maybe the Bills.
I'm going to go Jacksonville.
Maybe,
yeah, that's kind of what I'm leaning
towards. The best combination of talent both sides of the ball.
Either Jacksonville or Denver with a healthy Bo Nix.
Denver, right.
They have to be healthy. Like, Stidham in there. If the Broncos would have somehow found a way to get past the Patriots in the AFC Championship and Stidham had to play, that would have been terrible.
Yes.
that would
so
not
it could have been worse.
It could have been worse. It definitely could have been.
Okay, we got 2 minutes. This is not an official topic that we were scheduled for the show, but
great.
Is it this year for 2026, or is that still next year? When does 2026 become this year?
What do you, like the 2026 season?
Yes, because
right now, today.
Last week, 2026 is definitely next year, right?
Yeah.
Before the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Now
it's today. Yeah, it's the offseason now.
We're
every team's undefeated right now. Every team's 0-0. I think today is the official
start of this year.
Day 1 of the 2026 season.
Right. Yeah. We've solved problems today. Not curing cancer, but right there. Right there. Whoa. Almost the same thing.
That's a hot take.
Right?
It's a sports podcast, and this is the hottest take you've had.
Roll the theme. That's all for this edition of BKL Nightly. Off season's gonna be fun, everybody. Tune in every Monday and Thursday. We'll be here all season long talking about, not cancer, fortunately, but football most of the time. For Rachel Liebert and Caleb Carr, I'm Thad Brown. Thanks very much for watching. We're back again on Thursday to talk more of Bills off-season stuff. We will see you then.
Get the Rochester First streaming app today for everything you love from News 8 On Demand, plus exclusive shows you won't see anywhere else. Search ROC and download for free on Roku, Amazon Fire, and Apple TV.